Ladies and gentlemen, there are moments in life, in all of our lives, when the weight of the world seems unbearable. You feel overwhelmed as though every step you take only brings you closer to a place where there is no hope, no peace, and no way out. It's in those times that our minds often turn inward. We begin to focus on the enormity of our problems, on the size of the obstacles ahead of us. But let me tell you something very important today. Your problems, no matter how big they seem, are not meant to define you. They are not meant to overwhelm you. Instead, they are opportunities for you to refocus your life in a way that will give you peace, joy, and purpose. When we're in the midst of trials, it can be so easy to become consumed by what's right in front of us, the struggle, the pain, the fear, the doubt. And if we're not careful, we find ourselves spiraling, allowing the weight of our problems to pull us down further and further. But God never intended for us to carry those burdens on our own. He never intended for us to look at the size of our problems and forget the size of our God. Now, I understand. It's difficult. I know that sometimes the challenges we face in life seem insurmountable. It feels as if everything we have worked for is slipping through our fingers, that the dream we've held onto so tightly is about to shatter. There are seasons when our hearts are heavy, when every step feels like a burden, and we begin to wonder if there's any way forward. But I want to remind you of something powerful today. In those moments, in the darkest moments, God is still with you. You see, we are called to walk by faith and not by sight. It's easy to focus on what we can see, on the problems that surround us. Our circumstances are often loud, and they demand our attention. But what we must remember is that God is greater than our circumstances. His love is greater than our fear. His power is greater than our weakness. And His promises are far more certain than the lies the enemy tries to plant in our minds. There is a powerful truth that we often forget when we are facing hardship. God is sovereign. He is in control. He holds the future in His hands, and there is nothing in this world that can separate us from His love. The God we serve is not distant, nor is He indifferent to our struggles. He is a God who cares deeply about every detail of our lives. He sees our pain, our frustration, our heartache. And He is calling us to trust Him, to believe that He is at work even when we cannot see it. You see, when we focus on our problems, we magnify them. We make them bigger than they really are. Our vision becomes clouded, and we forget that God is bigger than anything we will ever face. But when we shift our focus to Him, when we fix our eyes on His promises, on His power, on His faithfulness, we begin to see our problems for what they really are. They are not the giants they appear to be. They are not the walls that cannot be broken down. They are temporary, and God has the power to turn them into something good, something that will ultimately bring glory to His name. The Bible tells us in Isaiah that God will keep us in perfect peace when our minds are stayed on Him. That peace isn't the absence of difficulty. It's the presence of God in the midst of difficulty. Peace comes when we stop focusing on the storm and start focusing on the one who is in the boat with us. Peace comes when we remember that God's plans for us are good, even when we can't see the way forward. There's another truth that we need to remember in those difficult moments. Our problems are not an accident. They didn't catch God off guard. He's not surprised by what's happening in your life. He knew every struggle you would face before you were even born. And He has a plan for you that will work all things together for good. That doesn't mean everything will be easy. It doesn't mean that we won't face pain or difficulty. But it does mean that God can use those difficult times to shape us, to strengthen us, and to bring about something beautiful in our lives. Let me say this clearly. Your problem is not bigger than God. Whatever it is that is causing you stress, anxiety, fear, or doubt, it is not too great for God to handle. There is nothing that you will face that He cannot overcome. There is no obstacle that He cannot move. There is no burden too heavy for Him to carry. And there is no prayer too small for Him to answer. When we focus on God, we shift our perspective. We stop looking at our limitations and start looking at His unlimited power. We stop measuring our strength against the size of our problems and start measuring it against the greatness of our God. And when we do that, we find that our problems no longer have the power to control us. We find peace in the midst of turmoil. We find hope in the midst of despair. And we find the strength to keep going even when we don't know how. There is something about focusing on God that brings clarity to our lives. It helps us see the way forward even when the road is unclear. It helps us trust His timing even when it doesn't align with our own. And it helps us remember that God is with us every step of the way. We are not alone in our struggles. God has promised that He will never leave us nor forsake us. In fact, when we focus on God, we are reminded of all the ways He has been faithful to us in the past. We remember the times when He provided for us, when He healed us, when He gave us peace in the midst of chaos. Those memories remind us that God is trustworthy, and they give us the confidence to trust Him with our present and our future. There are days when it feels as though we are walking through a wilderness, lost and alone. There are seasons when it seems as though we've been praying and waiting for answers, and yet nothing seems to change. But in those moments, God is still at work. Even when we can't see it, He is moving behind the scenes, orchestrating events for our good. He is preparing us for something greater, something that we cannot yet see. And in the meantime, He is refining us, building our faith, and teaching us to rely on Him more fully. This is the call for each of us, to focus on God, to keep our eyes fixed on Him. No matter what we're going through, it's easy to get caught up in our problems. It's easy to allow our circumstances to become the center of our attention. But when we do that, we lose sight of the one who holds our future. We forget the one who is greater than anything we will ever face. So I encourage you today, whatever you are going through, whatever difficulties you may be facing, do not allow them to define you. Do not allow them to become the focus of your life. Instead, look to God. He is your refuge and your strength and ever-present help in times of trouble. He is the one who will never leave you, who will always be there to carry you through. He is the one who will give you peace in the midst of your storms and joy in the midst of your trials. When you focus on God, you are reminded of His greatness. You are reminded that He is in control. You are reminded that He is faithful, that He is good, and that He will always make a way for you. Your problems may seem big, but our God is bigger. And when you keep your eyes on Him, you will find the strength to rise above your circumstances and walk in victory. So today, I encourage you to shift your focus. Don't focus on your problems. Don't focus on what you don't have or what you've lost. Don't focus on your limitations or your fears. Instead, focus on God. Focus on His love, His power, His promises. Keep your eyes fixed on Him, and He will lead you through whatever it is you are facing. And remember, He is greater than anything you will ever encounter. This is not just a call for today, it's a call for every day. Every moment that we face, we have a choice. Will we focus on our problems, or will we focus on the one who is bigger than them all? Choose to focus on God. Choose to trust Him. Choose to believe that He is with you, that He is for you, and that He will carry you through. When you do, you will experience a peace that passes all understanding, a joy that cannot be shaken, and a strength that comes from the one who is greater than anything this world can throw at you. So I leave you with this thought. In the midst of your struggles, in the middle of your pain, focus on God. Keep your eyes on Him and trust that He is working all things together for your good. Your future is in His hands, and there is nothing in this world that can separate you from His love. When we focus on God, we find that we are never alone, never abandoned, and never without hope. And no matter what we face, we know that in the end, God will see us through. In life, there are times when the weight of our problems seems unbearable. It feels as if the world has come crashing down on our shoulders, and no matter how hard we try, we can't seem to escape the pressure. Our minds begin to race, our hearts begin to pound, and before long, we become completely overwhelmed. It's in those moments that we face the hardest choice of all. Do we let the problems consume us, or do we choose to look up and focus on something far greater than the struggles we see before us? It's in those moments that the question we must ask ourselves is simple but powerful. Are we going to focus on our problems, or are we going to focus on God? You see, the answer to that question is not just a matter of perspective. It's a matter of peace, strength, and victory. When we allow ourselves to become completely absorbed by our problems, we lose sight of the truth. We forget that our struggles, no matter how difficult they may be, are temporary. But God's love, His power, His promises, those are eternal. And when we choose to focus on Him rather than the problems that seek to overwhelm us, we begin to see things in a completely different light. There is a profound truth in life that many people forget, especially in times of distress. Our problems are not meant to define us. Yes, they may be real. Yes, they may be painful. Yes, they may challenge us in ways we never expected. But the power they have over us is entirely dependent on where we direct our attention. When we focus on the size of the issue, on the obstacle in our path, it begins to take center stage, to dominate our thoughts. And before long, it feels as if we cannot escape its grip. But here is the key. We have the power to shift our focus. We have the ability to take our eyes off the storm and turn them toward the one who commands the storm. We have the choice to stop looking at the darkness around us and instead look to the light that will never fade. And when we do that, when we take the focus off our problems and place it on God, we are reminded of His greatness, His strength, and His promises. We remember that there is nothing in this world, no problem, no fear, no obstacle, that is greater than the God we serve. Let's take a moment to reflect on what happens when we focus on our problems. When we fixate on our challenges, we tend to exaggerate their significance. We start to see them as insurmountable, as though there is no way forward. The more we think about them, the more we magnify them. We begin to believe the lie that our situation is hopeless, that the future is bleak, and that there is no way out. But in doing so, we fail to recognize that we are looking at our problems through a lens of fear, not through the lens of faith. And that is where the real shift begins, when we begin to look at our problems through the eyes of faith. When we focus on God, we are reminded that He is greater than anything we face. The Bible is full of reminders of His power, His ability to make a way where there seems to be no way, His promise to never leave us or forsake us. In fact, one of the most comforting truths in the Scripture is that God is with us even in our deepest valleys. He walks beside us when we are struggling, when we are doubting, when we are exhausted and overwhelmed. He is not distant. He is not far away. He is with us right here, right now, in the midst of our struggles. But the key to experiencing that peace and presence in our lives is to shift our focus, is to stop looking at our circumstances and start looking at our Savior. When we focus on Him, when we remember His greatness, we begin to see our problems in their proper perspective. They no longer have the power to control us. They no longer have the power to dictate our emotions or shape our outlook on life. And as we focus on God, we find that His peace, which surpasses all understanding, begins to flood our hearts and minds. Let's take a closer look at the power of focusing on God, especially when we are facing challenges. When we choose to focus on God, we are reminded of His faithfulness. Think about the countless times in the past when God has been faithful to you. Think about the times when you were in need and He provided. Think about the moments when you were weak and He gave you strength. Think about the times when you were lost and He guided you. The same God who has been faithful in the past is the same God who is with you now, and He will be with you in the future. His faithfulness is unshakable. When we focus on God, we also remember His promises. The Bible is full of promises of provision, protection, peace, and victory. When we face challenges, it's easy to forget these promises. But the moment we shift our focus back to God, we are reminded of His Word. and his word is powerful. It is living and active. It has the power to transform our thinking, to renew our minds, and to give us hope even in the darkest times. In addition to his faithfulness and promises, focusing on God reminds us of his power. There is nothing in this world that is beyond God's ability to handle. He spoke the universe into existence. He parted the Red Sea. He raised the dead. He healed the sick. He calmed the storm. And he is the same God today. The problems you face, no matter how big they seem, are not too big for God. There is no mountain that he cannot move. There is no situation that he cannot change. When we focus on God, we begin to see the vastness of his power, and we realize that he is more than capable of handling whatever we are facing. Another powerful reason to focus on God, especially when we're struggling, is that it changes our perspective. Our circumstances may not change immediately, but when we focus on God, we begin to see things differently. We start to see the bigger picture. We realize that God is at work in our lives, even when we can't see the full extent of it. We begin to understand that our struggles are not pointless. God uses every trial, every challenge, every difficulty for a purpose. Sometimes that purpose is to teach us, to grow our faith, to strengthen our character, or to prepare us for something greater. But whatever the reason, we can trust that God is using every circumstance to bring about his good and perfect plan for our lives. Let's not forget, too, that focusing on God also brings peace. Peace is something that can't be found in the absence of trouble. True peace is found in the presence of God, even in the midst of our difficulties. The Bible tells us that God will keep us in perfect peace when our minds are stayed on him. This peace doesn't mean that our problems will disappear, but it means that we will have the strength to face them with confidence, knowing that God is with us every step of the way. The peace that comes from focusing on God is not the kind of peace the world gives. The world offers a fleeting peace that depends on circumstances. But God's peace is lasting. It is a peace that guards our hearts and minds, no matter what is happening around us. And it is a peace that can only come when we choose to focus on him. So, how do we focus on God in the midst of our problems? It starts with choosing to trust him, even when we don't understand what's happening. It means remembering his faithfulness, his promises, and his power. It means spending time in his word, reflecting on his truth, and allowing his spirit to guide us. It means turning our worries into prayers, casting our anxieties on him, and trusting that he cares for us. And it means choosing to keep our eyes on him even when the storm is raging all around us. There's a beautiful truth in Psalm 34:4. I sought the Lord, and he answered me. He delivered me from all my fears. This is the promise we hold on to when we